Committee meeting to order on Thursday, June 13th, 2024. I'm just going to read the recording and taping notification as required by law. The town may audio or video record this meeting. Any person intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair. Okay. Welcome, everybody. I'm Kathy Green. I'm stepping in for Dave Nixon tonight. This is our annual public information hearing where we welcome the public to express any concerns or views that they might have regarding needs for the town, specifically things that the Community Preservation Act may fund. If anybody'd like to start, you can come up to the
As a
middle.
point of order,
Yes.
do we need to read the ad?
I don't know, do
I
we?
think we typically read the ad.
Okay,
in.
sure. I just need to read the ad. Do you have the ad? You mean the one you just handed me or the legal notice thing? Legal notice, Mary?
Yeah, I think you can just read what you put on for what's in the agenda. Or
Okay,
you can read that, or you can read the ad.
okay.
Oh, right from the agenda.
Oh, I can just read that? Okay, I'm sorry. Public information hearing. The Harwich Community Preservation Committee will hold a public information hearing on Thursday, June 13th, 2024, at 6 p.m. in the Don B. Griffin Room Town Hall, 732 Main Street, Harwich, Mass. 02645, pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44B, Community Preservation Act, Section 5B1. As part of its study, the committee shall hold one or more public informational hearings on the needs, possibilities, and resources of the city or town regarding community preservation possibilities and resources, notice of which shall be posted publicly and published for each of 2 weeks preceding a hearing in a newspaper of general circulation in the city or town. Learn about the act and discuss possible projects consistent with the act and review the submittal guidelines. The information is available online at www.harwich-mass.gov/community-preservation-committee. So, would you like to come up?
Very good, thank you for that. Hi.
Hi, just identify yourself for the.
Well, I'm Matt Suckton. I communicated with you earlier, I hope you got my letter. Thank you for inviting me to speak. I'm here tonight because I have several concerns about what your function will be going forward, since land bank funds are pretty much being put in the rearview mirror. And my concern is that preservation is not a matter of just building things. And I'm a little confused as to what your posture is as a group funding projects. And before I sound too critical, I want to say that I'm the beneficiary. I printed out all your work. I'm the beneficiary of 2 of your articles here. So I'm very grateful, and I don't want to sound overly critical. But I am concerned that with the land bank funds being put to bed, that I think the income, the expenditures that the town would typically have as operational are going to be put your way. And you're going to be building fences and building toilets and doing all kinds of things that really belong in the operational budget. I go back to the inception of CPC, before that. And my focus has always been on buying land, preserving land. I think first costs are ultimately over time the cheapest because there's no maintenance, there's no support. When you build a toilet, you have to come back to it. You'll be asked to support it again. And whereas with land, of course, once it's done, and we don't have the density factor. We've cut back on the density factor. My ideal position would be, my ideal thought for this group would be that the best approach going forward would be a posture of steady state, where you're not trying to create anything, which will need for future funding and future development. And that's where I'm confused at the moment, because I don't see preservation as something that is acquired, achieved by funding. I see restoration, I see fixing buildings, but fundamentally, going out there and building things or supporting things to be taken care of is not preservation. And maybe I don't understand your charge adequately, and I'll confess that I don't necessarily. But I do think that what I did understand at one point in time was that 1% of your funds available would go to saving land. And I think I'd like to leave here assured that that 1% is going to be very active with your group. But looking at printing out going back to '04, I see just so many things you're funding that really don't seem to have much to do with preservation. And while you've got other responsibilities, my sense is the politics are such that you will be pushed to build more, do more, support more, maintain more, and not necessarily buy more land. And so I hope that you will insist somehow with the select board that you should be out actively looking for sellers of land. I realize you've got before you this tax situation, and I'm not sure I understand it fully. It looks to me like smoke and mirrors, but I suppose I'll get some clarity at some point in time about what it really is as far as acquiring land and how it will be used. Essentially, that's what I have to say. My concern that too much on this list has nothing to do with preservation. And I appreciate your hearing me for that. Thank you. Oh, I do have one other item. If you're aware of my correspondence, I'm particularly concerned that you are funding, through the trustees of the library, the cutting down of the 2 trees in front of the library. Now, I don't think you ever anticipated that when you proffered up money for the library. I'm not being accusatory. I'm just saying this has kind of happened. And I ask you what that has to do with preservation. And I don't think it has anything to do with preservation. What I think it has to do with is the library's got some money, and they want to spend it. And that money came from you. So while some of it was voted at town meeting, I am quite sure, as you've seen in my letter, that nobody at town meeting knew that those 2 trees were going to get cut down in their vote. And I ask you to do everything you can to slow that process down, and in fact, not even slow it down, stop it. Stop it. There is no need to cut down 2 trees on Main Street because there are a few wrinkled bricks. It's just not necessary. And it's a bad look, I believe, for the whole town. I mean, all you had to do was look in Chatham when they cut down the big tree in front of the library there. I scratched my head. I mean, there are plenty of ways to spend $115,000. And I can think of plenty of low-income housing ways that it can be spent. I don't think you want to have a brand on you for cutting 2 trees down in front of the library. And that's my last word. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's just a point, the funding did not come from Community Preservation Act funds they're not using that for the removal of the trees.
Well, if I'm clear on this, money was voted for the removal of the trees. Of course, why was it voted? But I do believe that the money was supplemental, that they couldn't do the whole project unless they got more money from the town. They had money left over that you had provided for them.
I think our policy has been that landscaping is not something that can be covered by Community Preservation Act funds. Mary?
Well, I'm confused.
If I may.
Yeah.
Again, criticism is best when it's born out of knowledge.
I don't want to be insulted. I don't want to be insulted.
Well, if you let me finish.
Yeah.
You've made a number of accusations. You're sitting here tonight saying that we funded the cutting down of the trees.
No, I didn't say that. You haven't cut them down yet.
It had, even, that you're arguing that our funding is going towards it.
I am.
Our funding is not going towards it. We never voted at this board for any funding that would go towards,
I'm not
The
saying you
sidewalk
did. You didn't
project.
know what you were voting for. You didn't, when you proffered up the money, you did not know what you were going to be spending on. Fact is, the library went back before the town for more monies to supplement what they already had to finish their work.
we work under, if I may, Madam Chair, we work under a very strict construct under the Community Preservation Act. Your entire commentary is clearly born out of a lack of knowledge. And I just need to point out, you're talking about land bank. You opened by talking about land bank. Land bank has been gone for 20-plus years. We have paid off our entire land bank debt. We are now under the Community Preservation Act. That was adopted in 2004 and 2005 by this town. We put 3% of our, on top of our surcharge goes to Community Preservation Act funds.
Thank you.
10% of those funding, 10% goes to historic preservation.
Yeah.
10% goes to community housing.
Yes,
10% goes to open space development.
yes.
The remainder goes into a general bucket. We work under a very strict construct. Each year, when we make recommendations to town meeting, we work under a construct, and we're very particular about that construct and what we vote.
Well, thank you for that, and if I've offended anybody, I am sorry. All I can say is that 2004 was the first time I was involved with the CPC and with the land bank, and I've been involved with it since. So I don't think I was born yesterday. What I'm saying is, I'm here because you've got more monies coming forward, and I'm concerned that you're not gonna use it in the best possible spirit. And frankly, Ms. Maslowski, you just confirmed that.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I'd just like to, if I may, just take a moment.
Just take a
I
breath.
just want to take a moment. I just want to clarify for the record, your accusations towards me, just for the general public. I am not a paid employee of the town of Harwich. I haven't been a paid employee for the town of Harwich since September of 2004. So while you may choose to write letters to the editor, it would be appreciated if they were
Well,
accurate.
I'm sorry, I'll only defend myself since you brought it up. I did resort to the printout of paid employees in Harwich, and my understanding is you're paid $18,000.
I have not been a paid employee in the town of Harwich since,
And you need to, you
2000.
need to correct the data in the town of Harwich, is what my advice to you.
Well, thank you,
Appreciate
Mr. Sutphen. Thank you very much, and we'll distribute your letter and your concerns to the rest of the board.
it. Thanks very much, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Mr. Evans?
Thank you very much. I didn't sign in, and I should have.
Yes, you should. Please. And identify yourself, please.
I'm Tom Evans. I'm the president of the Harwich Conservation Trust Board of Trustees. I would be joined by Mike Locke this evening. In fact, Mike would probably do all of the talking, except he's at another meeting, and so here I am. We would have two messages that we would like to convey to the CPC. And the first is just a general, deep gratitude for what this committee does in support of the town of Harwich. We recognize that the CPA is a complicated piece of legislation. It provides a significant amount of money that has to be distributed judiciously, carefully, thoughtfully, based on a lot of reading, thought, and reflection on your part. And it's probably quite likely that's not fully understood by everyone within the community, that you are all volunteers doing this work, and so we're just very grateful for that, because we think that the results of that work show across town, whether people agree with every single determination that you make or not, the cumulative work that you do for the town is just remarkable, so thank you. We're also deeply grateful for your support in helping us in our acquisitions of land. And there are some parcels of land that have specific public interest or that have a price tag that are simply large enough that we would not be able to do it privately, and we've been able to work with your support in acquiring some significant parcels over the course of a number of years. So thank you very much for that. The other thing that I want to do is just report. A couple of you have been to the Robert F. Smith Cold Brook Eco Restoration Project in the course of the last couple of months. So you've seen the work that we've done, and we are thrilled to tell you that the ADA trail is in, it's complete. The boardwalks are all 4 of them in and complete. When you drive down Bank Street, you can look and you can see 2 of the boardwalks that pretty easily. If you look carefully, you'll see the 3rd boardwalk. The 4th and the longest is kind of around the bend toward Hoyt Road. But the ADA trail is complete. The other trails are really complete to the extent that they've been hydroseeded on both sides, and we're now counting on Mother Nature to do her thing, fill in the landscaping. We're waiting for the property to green up. And we'd like to open it as soon as we can, but we don't want to open that property until the parking lot and the trailhead are completed, because that's really the entrance. That's the gateway to the preserve, and we need to finish that project. The good news is that we went out for competitive bid. We've had significant interest from almost a dozen contractors on Cape and off Cape. We hope to get good numbers. Those bids get opened on July 19th. And our hope is that that parking lot project can go into construction sometime in July. We're coordinating carefully with the Harwich Fire Association, another organization that you have generously supported in their extraordinary work. I don't see them in the room tonight, but I work with them very carefully and closely, and I can tell you how much they appreciate the CPC support of their project. We're working hand in hand in that. We'd like to hope that the parking lot project will be finished by early fall, and we'd like to open up the trails at that point. So as far as we're concerned, we're just big fans of CPC, of the CPA, the Community Preservation Act, and all the good that it accomplishes, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Dave, did you want to speak tonight? No? Mr. Powers? Did you want to speak on?
I'm going to defer to others, but I'll be here for all of your meeting.
Okay. Okay, is there,
Here comes the others.
oh, would you like to come up to the podium?
I'm not really oriented with the new layout here, so.
Either way.
To identify yourself,
My name
please.
is Bob Brackett. I'm here representing the Harwich Police Soccer Club. And first of all, I would like to thank the CPC for their support and everything that they have done. And I just want to make a couple of comments that as somebody who recently went through the process of obtaining CPC funding for the first time, I wanted to say that I came into the process not knowing a lot about it, and so I felt I tried to do some due diligence going in there and learning about the CPC, and it was very eye-opening. And I want to say thank you. It was quite an easy process. And I just wanted to make a couple of comments that I appreciate the fact that the CPC is here to fund recreational projects. As I have an intense interest in that as far as the youth in the community and providing as much recreational projects as we can. And what I learned over the course of researching CPC and what they do is that there were a lot of recreational projects that have been funded over the years, and it seems like there's been a lot of questions in the community or concerns that maybe they were, where those fundings and the direction of how they were, and whether certain places were getting more funding or not. And what I learned, and it was painfully obvious, that you fund projects that are presented to you, and you do your due diligence in vetting those projects. And as somebody who presented a project that I thought was very simple and straightforward, I got a lot of, you did your due diligence in determining whether to fund that or not. And you didn't just fund it, you were very careful in how you funded it. So it was very nice to know that you do that due diligence in doing that. And I would like to just make note that projects that you have funded are projects that are presented to you. You don't choose the projects that come before you. They're presented to you and you do your vetting for it. So if anybody has concerns about those projects and what have done, they have to know that you only fund what you're presented, and you choose whether you do that or not. So with that being said, I would hope that the board would keep an open thought process on more recreational projects that come forward for the youth in the community. There have not, over the years, there have not been that many projects that have been presented to you specifically for the youth in the community. And I hope that moving forward, more organizations and everything would present more options to you for those fundings. And I hope to be part of that moving forward. So I just wanted you to get used to seeing me and trying to take advantage of the process as much as possible. I do have some comments. I don't know whether you want to hear them now or later. I do believe there's a separate agenda item as far as the online process for the application
No,
process.
you're welcome to make a comment right now if you'd like.
Yep, so I know one of the prior meetings I went at, it was discussed where you were looking for some feedback on that. And what I want to say is it was extremely easy and straightforward. So I went into it completely blind, and I'm not real up on everything, but I took the time, and it was pretty straightforward to do. If I were to offer any constructive criticism whatsoever, there are some confusing aspects to it in the sense that it's not the online application process. The online application is perfect. But what I went into it not knowing is there were, and I was presented with it, which I subsequently did, looking for letters of support from different groups. And part of that application on there is, I believe there's a section of what committees have you gone before to do that. I had no idea what that meant. And so I said none. And then after I had the first interview, I was suggested to go to different committees. And I'm still, some of that makes sense. I'm still a little confused as to why that is and what the purpose is behind that. So I understand maybe if it's a recreational project, there's some sense in having a discussion with the rec commission. I do kind of get that, but in that process, there's nowhere that explains that or makes that clear ahead of time. That might be a good suggestion to go to for that. So that would be one suggestion to clear that up. I still don't know really why I've had to. I had no problem doing it, going for them. But I don't know I still don't really know what the real purpose is behind that. Whether you need their approval, whether you don't need their approval, whether you wouldn't act. I still don't know the real purpose as to why that. I was more than happy to do it though. So that would be one thing that I would maybe make a suggestion to be a little bit more clear in that. The other thing that is still in the process was that some of the funding options in there are still a little confusing to me, which could be clarified. Whether maintenance, it says, I believe, like routine maintenance is not a fundable thing through CPC, but rehabilitation and restoration effective 2000, I don't know what the difference is between that. And that's not really clarified anywhere in there. So looking back, when I was doing my research for projects that were previously funded by CPC, I saw many projects that could be considered maintenance, but I don't know what restoration rehabilitation means, and I might be strictly looking at recreational projects to be clear. So that is still something that's a little confusing to me as far as what people may want to in the future come before CPC for. For example, and I'm not begrudging anybody funding, so be clear of that, but this most recent thing, there were AEDs funded for rec, which absolutely, I'm not questioning the funding, I'm more than happy to get them, but I wouldn't have thought to go to CPC for something like that, based on the criteria. I more than, like, fully support them having them, that's not a thing. So, the only thing I would say is in the guidelines, there's some things that may not appear consistent as far as how some of the things are funded. And as somebody who is looking to come before you much more frequently, I just, you know, it would be nice to have a little bit of guidance. There's been, in some of the meetings in this last go-around, there was a lot of conversations about grass on fields. So CPC is primarily probably the primary funder for recreational things in the town, which would be potentially sports and athletic fields. And so there's kind of a catch-22 in there. If part of the board isn't necessarily keen on grass, CPC can't fund turf.
Right.
So that's kind of a catch-22 on how people could come to CPC for some sort of like that. So there are some things that are somewhat contradicting. And I know you don't have control over the turf thing. I believe that was a state guideline thing, so I'm not saying that. But just saying, when you know, have your feelings as far as grass, also be conscious that you can't fund turf. So there's not a lot of options in between. So those are just some of the things that I just trying to read through research and everything we're trying to figure out. So with that being said, I do appreciate everything that you do, and it does pay to do research ahead of time.
Sure.
And you do learn a lot with that.
Did you reach out via email to the CPC at all and not get a response, or?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, I'm just going by strictly my own research. I had no problems in that, in my last process going through there. It was very eye-opening and it was a very simple process going through the online. These are just things that, over the course of the things that I had in questions, that I just thought that, I remember one of the prior meetings you had discussed wanting feedback as far as the online process went.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
And I thought that was extremely simple.
Great. Mary?
I wonder if, at one point, and I don't know if it's still there or not, on the Community Preservation Coalition website, they had a chart that was just the table of the categories and the yeses and nos, what you could use it for, what you
That's
couldn't use it for.
in our application.
Sure, it's there.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah, it's there.
I couldn't remember whether that was in the online.
Yeah.
It's there, and under, like I said, and that's where I have the question, like, it says restoration/rehabilitation. So I don't, my thing is, nowhere does it really explain the difference between restoration, rehabilitation, and/or routine maintenance. So, you know, replacing the irrigation, part of the irrigation at the fields behind the community center, is that rehabilitation, restoration, or maintenance? So I'm not asking you to give an answer to that, but my point is, from where I sit, I don't know the answer to that. So what I'm getting at is, as somebody who would be potentially looking to go to CPC, I would not know where something would fall in those things. You know, repairing fencing at White House Field, is that restoration, rehabilitation, or is that
Well,
maintenance?
recreation is kind of like a different, kind of like its own thing.
Right.
John?
I thought I understood the distinction being a distinction between operating expense and capital expenditure, particularly for the recreation category. And it's operating expenses, which I associate with the maintenance. Maintenance is an operating expense, as opposed to a capital expenditure, which I would say is associated with replacing an entire irrigation system or other capital improvements. Those are things that qualify under the recreation. I think it's different under open space.
Yeah.
It's more restrictive under open space. But maybe if you think about that distinction, operating expenses versus capital improvements, that's kind of where.
That's a valid explanation. My point is, that's not explained anywhere. That's all. So if somebody is trying to do their own due diligence and researching and learning about it, such as I tried to do, and a lot of this is new to me, though, I'm just, you know, that's just something that I picked up on, that there are some things that aren't really clear in that, so.
No, we thank you for your input, and you're probably one of the few people that's read guidelines and the application from front to back. So we thank you for that.
So I do, again, I do want to thank you. The online process is extremely easy. It's pretty self-explanatory, but it does have some, the whole, I was very confused by having to go before which boards or committees that you would have to go for either support or whatnot, and what that really means, because it's not really explained in there. And I'm sure nobody should have a problem going before those boards, such as I did not. But the reasons behind it are not really explained, so I do appreciate it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to read a letter that we received from the Community Development Partnership. They couldn't be here tonight. So I just want to read it for the record. To the Harwich CPC, sorry that I'm unable to attend Thursday's hearing due to a scheduling conflict. Please accept my written comments on behalf of the CDP instead. As the Harwich CPC thinks through what to prioritize in the year to come, I would recommend spending more than 10% on housing, as is being done in other towns. The CPC has the ability to shift expenditures in response to changing community needs, and housing certainly tops the list of challenges. This would allow Harwich, through CPA funding and other sources, to maximize its contributions to local projects that help meet the town's housing needs. Given that the town has projects in the pipeline, I would also suggest that Harwich prioritizes funding its own projects at this time. Construction costs are rising, and the competition for funding is fierce. Applying as much funding as you can towards Harwich's own projects is important to bridge funding gaps and keep projects moving towards completion. Lastly, I would like to thank both the CPC and the Harwich Town Meeting voters for approving the CDP's funding request to support the Lower Cape Housing Institute. All 8 Lower and Outer Cape town meetings approved our funding requests, and I'm thrilled that the region recognizes the value of the LCHI program. As Harwich moves through the RFP process with 456 Queen Anne and the Bank Street Fire Station project continues to progress, it is very important to have board and committee members and town staff who understand the complexities of creating housing and their role in it. To ensure you get the most value out of your investment in the program, I am always looking for ways to expand attendance and connect with the newly elected and appointed officials. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me with questions or for resources, and I will be in touch with information about upcoming programming in the coming months. Please let me know if you need any additional information. Thank you, Amanda Biebrin, who's the Director of Housing Advocacy for the Community Development Partnership. And just a point, I'm not sure that she's aware, but in this particular funding cycle, we allocated over 37% of our funds to affordable housing. So, is there anyone else that would like to comment? John?
I have some input from Conservation. Amy Usowski wanted to be here tonight, but she's unable to. At the end of the day today, she sent a narrative, I guess, it wasn't really a letter, to me and to Dave. And I'd just like to speak to it. I don't think I want to read what she said, but
Okay, is it regarding potential needs of the
it's
town,
regarding
or?
potential specific projects and requesting some feedback from the Community Preservation Committee on whether these are eligible, which,
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure that we would decide on their eligibility
Well,
this evening, but, I mean.
no, there's no decision to be made, but
Right.
any feedback that the committee, I mean, I have my own opinion, which I can convey to
Okay,
Amy, but
okay, go ahead.
I'll just describe them briefly.
Sure.
And I will also forward the email to Jan, so Jan can share this. But there's 2 projects. One is for installing a well at the community gardens, which to date have been using town water and paying water bills out of the, out of Conservation Department budget. And the preference is to have a well installed over there to provide water for the community gardens over there. That's one project. The other project is, has to do with a footbridge that is at the end of North Road, going over the Herring River. And on the south side of the river there, on the south side of the footbridge, there's a path which these days is flooding frequently at high tide. And there should be a walkway installed there, and possibly improvements to the bridge itself. And Amy has undertaken now, in preparation for submitting a proposal in the fall, getting quotes, informal quotes from various people and opinions about what, if anything, needs to be done to secure the footbridge against future debt. Exist some minor degradations now, but the rising tides and rising sea levels and increased high tides are probably causing erosion there. So those are two potential projects.
So the second project you mentioned, is it town-owned land or town-owned conservation land? Or neither?
It's part of the Bell's Neck set of properties.
Okay.
there. It is town-owned land,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. Anything else from the audience? Does anybody on the board want to address anything? No? Okay, then I guess we'll be closing the public information hearing part of the meeting.
I move to close the public information hearing.
Is there a second?
I second. I second.
Second, all right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? Okay, the public session is closed. All right. Moving on to the regular session, like a motion to approve the meeting minutes from May 6th and May 9th.
So moved.
Second.
John? Is there any discussion about the minutes for May 6th, 2024, or May 9th, 2024? Hearing none, take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? It's passed. Okay. Under new business, yes, Dave?
Kathy, Dave suggested that there was going to be something discussed in executive session. Tell me to be here for Julia Eldridge, is that true? Or no, microphone?
You need to be at.
Oh.
Be on microphone.
Dave,
Dave had asked me to.
just identify yourself, please.
Yep. I'm Dave Callahan. I'm a member of Real Estate and Open Space Committee. I've been in touch with Dave Nixon regarding the Judah Eldridge discussions that have occurred over the last couple of months. And he said that there would be discussion here in executive session.
Mhm.
I'm here for that. Can I stay or not?
Okay, well, my understanding, I had a quick call from Dave before this meeting, and he got word from Select Board member Mike McCaskill that he would not be able to be at the meeting, and that his message to the Community Preservation Committee was that my understanding is that the Judah Eldridge land situation was resolved, and that and that CPA funds were not going to be used for it. Therefore, they were putting together a warrant article for either a special town meeting in the fall or the May town meeting, where that money would be, voted back to the Community Preservation Act fund.
That's correct.
And that is.
That's what I'm here to make sure happens.
And that is my understanding, and I asked if I was able to say that in public, and he said I was, so there would be no need for us to meet in executive session to discuss Judah Eldridge tonight.
But that's why I was here, just to make
Okay.
sure that you were aware.
Thank you. Okay, under new business, presentation from the Natural Resources Director, but I do not see anyone here, so I guess we will not be discussing that.
I think your town administrator's here.
Oh, I didn't know he was here to discuss that.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Joe Powers, Town Administrator. I want to mark the time. It's 6:40 PM on, what is this, Thursday, June 13th, 2024, a momentous occasion. I don't know if you folks realize it, but you are the first public body in the town of Harwich to be able to use Jamie Goodwin's brand-new room. I hope you understand the privilege you've been granted, and I want to state for the record that my water is away from the furniture.
Oh, jeez.
And I wanted to make sure this works as well, because everything else works.
Well,
You
It looks
sound-
great.
You're much clearer there than than our last speaker was on this one.
On behalf of Matt and everybody at the Harwich Channel, we're going to blame the speakers for that. It's never
Okay.
the equipment or the operators. Did you catch that, Matt?
Come again?
There we go. All right.
It's very disconcerting. I feel very out of sorts.
Mission accomplished. And
Thanks.
last but not least, I do want to put on the record, I will do it tonight, and of course, I will do it again Monday evening when the select board meets here. But I think you can all appreciate the labor of love that Jamie, Caleb, and Matt and everybody worked on to get this done. So let's all celebrate the Jamie Goodwin room for right now,
it looks
at
great.
least for one night. It's
Great,
fantastic. I
really,
think it's
looks great,
fantastic, so,
yeah.
Yep. Good evening, folks. So I am here for several purposes, not the least of which is here on behalf of the department head that is working on the project in question in your agenda. However, as a dialogue, I would ask, could you just educate me on how the department heads have been notified?
Jan?
Twice a year, we request written reports and oral presentations, and I send out emails to the department. No, I send out emails to whatever name is on the application that was submitted. Sometimes the application saw name changes, or the applicant asked for more people to be added to the emails.
Sure.
That's how it goes out. So I send out an email and I let them know. Then they usually email me back and tell me yay, nay. I also request the written report to be emailed at least a week before so the committee can read it. We're trying to do less paper, so I only asked for a small number. It depends how long the project's been alive, how many copies I might need, but in the Natural Resource Director's request, I asked for 3 copies because he's on the minimum. He just has 3. I just need 3 copies, and they're supposed to be, I just need them the night of the meeting, and they are requested to present their oral presentation. They're not there. It's explained that they don't have to read the report. It's just in case the committee member, in case the particular project has some particulars they want to talk about, but it's also to give the board time to ask specific questions. And so it's twice a year, and committees had that for a long time.
So what you're saying is that the project managers are the ones that are emailed?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that. So I will talk offline with you, Jan, on some staff updates, nothing related to our Natural Resources Director. But I had reached out to my team today saying, I'll be joining you this evening to help with the presentation, and some staff were not aware of it. So I can work with you offline about that. The other purpose for me being here is I would like to use this as a starting moment to perhaps refresh the process and the way that we work. As you can imagine, and I think as many of you may know, I'm required to give monthly updates to the select board on all procurement projects regardless of the funding source. So this is one of those projects that enjoys CPC funding, but is still, has an element of procurement to it, so it's not completed. So I want to make sure going forward, as I explained to my team, those are just about all the direct reports and the managers that you're aware of, that administration would be looking for that information as well, so that there's greater partnership between my office as town administrator and all committees, but also making sure that there are no gaps between department heads, other committees that they interface with, and groups such as yourselves. Having said all that, I can give you some numbers tonight. Don does have a completed report, and I'll make sure, Madam Chair, I can send that to you for distribution perhaps. But I can give you an update if you'd like on the raw numbers, if that's helpful,
Of the,
of his project.
okay, yeah,
Correct.
that'd be great.
Sorry, of the project stated in the agenda.
Yeah.
This is the written report.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's updating.
So he
this
sent us a
or-
report April 4th, a written report.
So you probably have the numbers that say the remaining balance is $25,034?
Right, although I did notice in the latest Munis thing that it was only like 2,000, so, or something.
What latest Munis one do you said Munis, right?
Yeah,
Which
like
Munis one do
maybe
you
a
have?
month ago or something, I recall
Uh-huh.
seeing.
I was only provided with the April Munis. Had I known, I
Okay,
have,
forget I said that, go
I have
ahead,
the
just go
skills and
ahead.
ability to go into Munis.
No,
and
go ahead,
If you continue on, I can
go ahead, no, go
I can go
ahead,
back down and run those numbers.
go ahead.
So I think that I would just end with that, because that's all the information I have at present
Mm-hmm.
on that particular project.
Okay, so that, as far as you know, there's 20-something thousand dollars left in their account, and they still have some monitoring to do, is my understanding.
Correct, and that
That
is
would-
my understanding as he, for one of my direct reports, the next part of that is the post-project monitoring.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, and I think that we had hoped for the opportunity to talk to the Natural Resources Director, so we could kind of just get a feel for when that post-monitoring was gonna happen.
Sure.
That kind of thing.
I did have a email conversation with Don today, so I'll follow up with him. We'll make sure you folks have that.
Okay, great, great.
Should I yield? I kind of like it up here. It's nice.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. I hadn't heard the information on Judah Eldridge, so
Oh,
that was,
yeah.
that was all. Did it all jive?
Yep, we're all set.
I didn't hear the question, so I'm going to keep backing up.
We're good. Thank you
going.
very much, Mr. Powers.
Thank you.
Yep. Does anybody have any comments on the Skinnequit Pond remediation project while we're discussing it? No,
Do you remember what Kelly's question was? She had a question on it
I
last
don't.
time.
I
Okay.
don't.
Just thought we almost had somebody to answer.
Okay, old business, follow up on the signs. Actually, this committee authorized that we, have some more banners and some lawn signs made up this winter. We waited until decent weather. And actually, a week ago, Dave and I met and put up some of the banners. So right now, so we've decided that the banners are better attached to a fence for support rather than stakes. So we did, there was a banner at the pickleball courts, which was moved by the pickleball people. So we adjusted that, and then we added another one sort of between the tennis and the pickleball, and we added one to the recreation playground area. And then we also put a banner at the senior field, behind where the seniors play and the girls softball team plays. We put one on a fence there.
The senior baseball.
Yes,
seniors
yes, baseball, yes, yes. And there is one at the firehouse, and where else did we go? Oh, we went to White's Field and, where the Mariners play, and we put one on one of the buildings. We had a conversation with somebody, yeah, they weren't excited about it, but we felt that we had done enough support, over the years, lighting system and, irrigation and fencing and that kind of thing, so I'm hoping that's still there. And then we had a couple of areas, let's see, so Fire Station, Brooks Park, there were 3, White House Field, Brooks Academy Museum. We reattached it to the actual building for now, until, what?
Which building?
Brooks Academy Museum. So until they start the exterior work, at that point, we'll take it down. Senior softball field. And then for the smaller signs, Dave was gonna put one up at the Chase Library, the Kroll Barn, Albro House, and the bocce courts. And I have finally gotten permission, or didn't really need it, but was discussing it with the South Harwich Meeting House. We're gonna put one at the Pine Grove Cemetery in West Harwich. I talked to the Cemetery Commission about that. Maybe Union Cemetery, which is the Methodist church, one on the corner of Church and whatever. And back, probably at the Cornelius Pond Trailhead. So I think that, for these warmer months, this at least will be something out there. And it will start to kind of get that logo in people's minds. Yes, John?
What about Bell's Neck? Wasn't there?
Okay, so when I had a conversation with the conservation agent, they had some real concerns about vandalism and that kind of thing with the signage, and I just decided it wasn't worth the effort. Because we can't control, out of sight, out of mind, we just, so we're gonna, try to focus on the more public areas for the banners, and then see how the signs go. If they get lost, then, we won't renew that. Marcy?
Yeah, I was just saying, that's great public exposure, what you've been doing with the signs. The sign on Queen Anne Road, I know that's a
We need to
banner.
fix that. Dave and I know we need to fix that.
Okay.
We need to both get out there and with our hammers and re-stake. Yes, we know that. Thank you,
I know,
reminding me.
I know.
Yes. I know. Anyway, and I'm hoping that if, Jen, do you think there's a use for the logo on any kind of stationery or anything?
I don't know why not. Put it on the website, put it on
On
any
any of this kind of
stationery.
thing?
It's all branding. You should do branding, you should get that,
Pens.
so everybody sees it
Pens.
when they see it around town.
Yeah. So if there's other places that it can be, sort of broadcast, that would be great.
Don't ask me questions, I always.
All right. Now, that's it for the signs. All right, follow up on the online application and website. Mr. Ketchum?
Okay, so, 2 pieces. One is the informational packet, which I promised I would complete at the last meeting we had, and I haven't. It's almost,
Okay.
I did as much as I could.
Yeah.
The issue is that the website is not up yet. And so the links that are published in the informational packet are unknown at this point. I don't know. But as far as I know, the rest of it is complete in draft form. I sent you and Jan and David a copy of the draft.
Yes, I looked at it.
So.
It's good.
Yeah, I think it's complete. So I think that's almost ready to go, but we can't really distribute it to the public, put it up on the website until it's complete. Otherwise, there will be links that people will try to follow that won't work anymore. The town website, if you aren't aware, the new website software is going live on Monday. Sarah Eaton has converted the existing 2023-24 online thing into the new website format, and it seems to work pretty well, but, just emphasis on the word seems, because it's still not live, and there are still a few details that need to be straightened out, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to address those until the thing is live. I had a conversation with Sarah last week and clarified some things for myself. Also, she has drafted up a draft version of what the CPC webpage will look like on the new website, and that's gonna need some work as well. And, again, I really need to wait and see what that is like on Monday. So I'm not sure what the process is gonna
All right.
be going forward.
All
I
right.
will have access to edit the website. Apparently, the online application, I mean, is structurally different in the context of the website software that, with the new website software than with the old. How I'm gonna access that, get credentials to access the online application itself to edit it, remains unclear to me. And I was asking Sarah about that last week, and she told me she had to go get back to the Civics Plus people to clarify that. So it's still up in the air. It makes me nervous, but we're still, how many months out? 4 months, 3 months, whatever?
So your understanding is that once the town goes live, and they get some of the kinks out,
Right,
then you'll be able to update to the 24-25 application
Right.
online.
right.
Okay,
And so, one thing that is pretty clear at this point is there won't be size limits anymore. So, and that's a big plus. People saving drafts, I mean, that was one of the requests, one of the comments is people didn't like the fact that they couldn't save drafts. And there doesn't seem to be a solution to that. And so I think we may modify the process by telling people that up until the deadline date, they can complete an application and consider it a draft, take it to committees they want to take it to, or whatever else they want to do with the draft, and they can resubmit a second time, as long as they make it clear that it's the same project they're resubmitting. And as long as that resubmission happens before October 1st at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
right. So are you hopeful that this will be available to the public by mid-July?
I'm hopeful that that will be the case.
Okay.
And can certainly I believe in short order, I will be able to put the informational packet, the final version, up on the CPC webpage within a few weeks, as long as I can clarify all the links that
Right.
need to be put in
Okay.
there.
All right, well, this is probably a good time to discuss some of the things that were brought up by Mr. Baxter. So, does anybody have any thoughts about the clarification of maintenance versus rehabilitation versus restoration? Mary?
So a suggestion is to do a hyperlink to the coalition's website. They have a subpage that has frequently referenced articles and some questions, and there are some for project eligibility, so I think if we find the right subpage, so like here, there's a subsection that says historic preservation, which historic projects qualify for CPA funding, and then there's an overview and a flow chart
We have that.
for eligibility.
That's listed in our application, correct?
I'm just thinking a hyperlink for each
Yeah.
of those subtopics might be helpful to them.
Okay,
So there, in the informational packet,
Yeah.
there is a link
Is
Yeah.
that okay?
yeah,
to justcommunitypreservation.org.
right.
And I'm quite sure there's one on the CPC webpage as well.
Yeah,
I'd also just like to point out that on the business about maintenance versus whatever, again, in the informational packet, under recreation, it does use the word capital expenditures. It says The amendment made it clear that with respect to land for recreational use, rehabilitation should include the replacement of playground equipment and other capital improvements to the land or the facilities thereon. It's
makes
not
sense.
super clear, it doesn't make super clear the distinction between that and maintenance. But some of this, I mean, you can only split hairs so much and, until it gets to the committee and the committee has a chance to review it and make judgments about whether it fits or not. So I'm not sure how much more can be done.
If you've got references to those pages in there already, then,
Well, but
There's only-
obviously, he didn't feel like that was sufficient.
I know, but
I'm
this,
just asking, I'm just
agree.
having
I
a
agree.
conversation here of, do we think we need to do something additional in the area of maintenance versus restoration versus rehabilitation?
our other option would be to ask council if they wanted to give us a definition of each.
That's what I was gonna say.
You
Is
know.
there a way to, I was just looking to see if there was an existing definition that you could pull and just plop it in, 'cause
Yeah.
I feel like, or if we could, like you're suggesting, deep link to something very specific, 'cause
Mhm.
I think people have trouble, I'm having trouble finding
Mhm.
some of the pieces on there.
Okay.
So if there are modifications
I'll look through some of
required,
the pages, and if I see something that's more
Okay.
specific, I can email Jan, she can get it out to everybody for
Okay.
consideration.
And then the question of supplemental materials and having a sign-off. I mean, I think that we moved past the sign-off at some point. We've just, we ask for, do we need to put in an explanation of why we want to have other committees weigh in?
So I think you can do it with a simple paragraph and
Mhm.
say, to the extent you're using a specific bucket of funds, and there is a town committee that is, that relates to those types of projects, it would be helpful for you to seek their support prior to your submission. You know, I mean, we take feedback from everybody, and I think if it's an open space or a conservation type of issue, and the Conservation Commission is voted in support of it, I'm gonna look on it more favorably than if the Conservation Commission says no.
Well, same
So-
thing with real estate and open space, or some affordable housing, the Affordable Housing Trust with an affordable housing project that's not associated with them. Yeah, I mean, I guess,
I think it's just not having, I think maybe for us, because we all have our own, we're representatives of different
Mhm.
boards, we kind of see the underlying, connection there, and where others coming in, at first blush wouldn't necessarily
mhm.
think that way, but perhaps just a simple paragraph could help it.
Yeah, and
Yes, Bob.
can we specifically say adding extra recommendations or approvals will help your chances, or
Oh.
something, you want to do that?
And we
to
can always
make
say it'll
sure
just
it's a
strengthen
priority.
your application.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
The only one legally we have to do is historical, right?
I think so, yes.
Because all historicals do have to go to the historical commission.
I think
And I
you're
don't know
right.
if that's separated out, does that document it anywhere? That's saying it does.
I don't know
need
if it is.
I don't know that it is either.
I don't remember if
Probably should
it's,
be on
I don't
guidelines.
remember.
Under historic,
Right,
yeah.
for the-
in bold letters.
Okay, so we'll have to look at that. Okay, so we should come up with a paragraph and then see if you can fit it in someplace.
can always fit in another paragraph.
Okay, I know. I don't know anybody who's read all this stuff, but,
Well,
It was
there's
nice to hear
reading
that
it
it was-
and then remembering what you just read
right,
5 minutes ago.
right,
So
exactly. Okay.
it's Internalizing all these things.
No, it was great to
takes
know
a while.
somebody had read it.
And it was great to hear that you did an excellent job, not that we didn't know that already, but it's nice to hear it from the applicants. that it was,
Yeah,
that it
I
was
had to-
perfect.
I had to
think
bite
was
my
his
tongue
word.
and say, well, it's going to be completely,
Yeah, Joe.
completely different next year, so.
It's all good.
No, but I wanted to make sure that if somebody had a question, they know that they can email the CPC,
Exactly, yes.
you know, and expect some follow-through, so, okay.
May I ask,
Yes.
what is how does that work? Jan picks them up typically?
No, I think Dave is the one who, the,
It changes,
oh, it does.
yeah.
Okay.
Dave usually is, this past year I had to because he had a conflict.
Okay.
No, I'm talking about the email. The
Who gets the
CPC email, who reads that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
That's
trying
okay.
to find something else in
Yeah,
there.
that's okay.
I don't have access to his
Okay.
email.
So Dave is the one that gets that.
Yes,
I don't either,
I don't.
so,
Only he does, and he doesn't get it like a normal, he has to log in to get it.
Yeah.
So sometimes when we email him, he may not see it unless he's looking for it. Unless he goes to look for it. That's just the little nuance.
That's tough if we're telling people that they have kind of open access to, and I'm not faulting anybody, but if, you know, if it's not facilitating that, like, quick back and forth, that's tough. Is there a
Well, that
different way
means
to
it's,
do it?
you're at, they're beckoning 24 hours a day, I don't think. I think that's, you know, I think he looks at it daily, but.
Okay, okay.
But it's not, we can't get a response the minute I,
no, but as long as we know
Yeah,
that.
no, when you say he looks at it daily,
Yeah.
that when you had said
Yeah.
it previously, it sounded like you
Yeah.
might not look at it
Right.
daily, so.
no,
I-
he
I
does, no.
rescind
Okay.
my
That's
commentary.
all we need, okay. Any other, discussion about the online application? John, you look like you have another question about it.
No, I don't, I'm just trying to think, I don't think there's anything else. I will, you guys, if you have further input for the informational packet, I will include that,
Okay,
and that probably in the next 2 weeks is
Okay.
probably the timeline.
definitely,
And I'm hoping I can have a more complete draft of the online application in a few weeks as well.
okay, great, great. Okay, other?
No other?
Any other discussion? Okay, is there anything that anybody would like to include on next, meeting's agenda?
I just wanna, our next meeting is the second Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just checking.
July 11th. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Should we just reconfirm for the announcement that we are not going in, there's no longer a
Oh,
need for
sure.
executive session?
Okay,
For the record.
well, before we adjourn, I'd like to announce that we're not going into executive session following this regular meeting. Now, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Mary?
Second.
Bob, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.